The Valen survey vessel Asterisk, Eternal Seeker Asterisk, drifted silently above the uncharted planet. Commander Ta-1 stood at the main viewport, his tall frame rigid with attention. This was the 8th world they had mapped this cycle, and he expected nothing unusual from this unremarkable yellow star system. "Commander, you should see this." The science officer's voice crackled through the ship's communication system. Tai-1 moved swiftly to the scanning station, where Officer Kaiho was hunched over his console, six-fingered hands moving rapidly across the controls. "What have you found?" Tai-1 asked. "Structures, buried beneath the surface of the 4th planet." Kaiho's voice carried an unusual edge of excitement. "They appear artificial." Tai-1 studied the scan results. The geometric patterns were unmistakable, straight lines, and perfect angles that nature never created on its own. "How old?" "Preliminary dating suggests at least 500 Earth years." The commander's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of intense interest among the Valen. "That's not possible. No spacefaring species claimed this sector 5 centuries ago." Within hours, the Asterisk Eternal Seeker Asterisk deployed its landing modules. Tai-1 led the first team himself, touching down in a clearing near the strongest signal cluster. The planet was habitable but uninviting: thin atmosphere, sparse vegetation, and harsh ultraviolet radiation from the star. "Set up the perimeter," Tai-1 ordered as the team disembarked. "No one goes beyond the markers until we've completed full environmental scans." The survey drones launched immediately, mapping the surrounding terrain while the team established base camp. By nightfall, they had confirmed the presence of artificial structures extending for several kilometers beneath the surface. "We'll begin excavation at first light," Tai-1 announced to his team. "Whatever lies beneath, it has been hidden for centuries." Sleep did not come easily to the commander that night. The scans bothered him. The buried structures showed technological signatures that seemed oddly familiar. Morning brought clear skies and the steady hum of excavation equipment. The Valen worked methodically, careful not to damage whatever lay beneath. By midday, they had uncovered the first definitive structure, a sealed entrance of some kind, made from an alloy that had resisted centuries of corrosion. "Can we open it?" Tai-1 asked the engineering specialist. Jun-Seo studied the door mechanism and nodded. "The system appears dormant but intact. I believe I can activate it without damage." The team gathered around as Jun-Seo connected his equipment to what appeared to be an access panel. After several tense minutes, lights flickered along the edge of the door, ancient systems coming to life after centuries of silence. The door slid open with surprising smoothness, revealing a dark corridor beyond. "Atmosphere inside is breathable," reported the environmental specialist. "Temperature stable. No signs of biological hazards." Tai-1 led the way, illumination units casting long shadows down the corridor. The architecture was unlike anything in Valen records: clean lines and efficient design that somehow felt both alien and strangely recognizable. They reached a central chamber where dormant terminals lined the walls. Jun-Seo approached one cautiously. "These interfaces," he began, his voice trailing off in disbelief. "What is it?" Tai-1 asked. "Commander, these are human designs." The words hung in the air, impossible and undeniable. Humanity was a known species, catalogued, studied, and classified as a juvenile race that had achieved interstellar travel barely 80 years ago. Yet here was evidence of human presence in deep space centuries before their official emergence. "That's not possible," Tai-1 said, but even as he spoke, he studied the terminals more closely. The configurations were unmistakable, designed for human hands and human ergonomics. Jun-Seo managed to power up one of the terminals. Information flowed across the screen in human script. "Can you read it?" Tai-1 asked. "Parts of it. It appears to be a colony manifest. New Olympus colony, established Earth year 2126. That's over 300 years before humans supposedly developed interstellar flight. another team member murmured. The implications crashed down on Tadawon like a physical weight. If humans had reached the stars centuries earlier than documented, everything the Galactic Compact believed about them was wrong. Their classification as a juvenile species, which limited their territorial rights, their political representation, their access to certain technologies, would be invalidated. We need to document everything, Tadawon ordered. And I mean everything. No detail is too small. Over the next 3 days, the team uncovered more of the settlement. Living quarters for nearly 500 humans. Laboratories with technology that rivaled current Valen capabilities. A small shipyard with designs that suggested faster-than-light capabilities far beyond what humans officially possessed. In one preserved data center, they found historical records. The colony had been established as part of an early expansion program from Earth, one of dozens scattered across this sector of space. Then came references to something called the Collapse, a catastrophic event that had severed contact with Earth and apparently ended humanity's first age of space exploration. They had to start over, Jumseo realized as he translated more documents. Some kind of conflict or disaster set them back centuries. When they finally reached space again, they either didn't know about these colonies or chose to hide their existence. On the 4th day, they discovered the preserved bodies, humans in suspended animation chambers that had failed over the centuries. The occupants had died long ago, but their presence confirmed everything the data had suggested. Taiwan stood in the silent chamber, looking at the human remains. These people had traveled among the stars when the Galactic Compact believed their species was still limited to chemical rockets and their first timid steps on their own moon. Commander. His communications officer approached cautiously. Central Command is asking for your report. They want to know what we found. Taiwan knew this discovery would shake the foundations of interstellar politics. Humanity's place in the galactic order would be forever changed. The Valen themselves, who had often dismissed humans as primitives barely worth diplomatic consideration, would need to reassess centuries of policy. Tell them we found evidence of prior settlement, he said carefully. Do not specify the species yet, and request a direct line to the High Council. This information must be delivered with care. As night fell on the forgotten colony, Taiwan watched his team continuing their work. Tomorrow, they would need to make contact with Earth's representatives. Tomorrow, the galaxy would begin to change. But tonight, he stood alone under alien stars, wondering what other secrets humanity might be hiding. The Earth Orbital Diplomatic Station hung like a gleaming wheel against the blue-white backdrop of humanity's home planet. Commander Taiwan found the structure oddly humble compared to the grand diplomatic hubs of other galactic powers. The station's simplicity had always reinforced his species' belief that humans were newcomers to interstellar politics. Today, that belief would be challenged. The Valen delegation consisted of 5 members, with Taiwan leading as the discoverer of New Olympus. They carried with them data crystals containing weeks of careful documentation, images, videos, preserved samples, and complete scans of the colony's computer systems. The humans have assigned us to Meeting Chamber 3, Officer Keiho informed him as their shuttle docked. Admiral Sujin will represent Earth. Taiwan's inner eyelids blinked in surprise. The Admiral herself, not their usual diplomatic course. The message came directly from her office after we transmitted the initial report. This was unexpected. Admiral Sujin rarely handled first contact scenarios or archaeological matters. As Earth's senior military representative to the Galactic Compact, she typically dealt with security treaties and territorial negotiations. A junior human officer met them at the airlock. Welcome to Earth Station. Please follow me. The Valen delegation was led through corridors bustling with representatives from a dozen different species. Taiwan noticed several high-level diplomats from the Maven Confederacy and even a Durrani elder, unusual company for what should have been a simple archaeological briefing. Meeting Chamber 3 was small but elegant. At its center stood a circular table with a holographic projector. 3 humans waited inside. 2 men in scientific attire and a woman in the distinctive black and silver uniform of Earth's Fleet Command. "Commander Taiwan," the woman said, stepping forward. "I am Admiral Sujin. Thank you for bringing this matter directly to us." The Admiral was shorter than Taiwan had expected, with close-cropped gray hair and eyes that revealed nothing. She gestured to the seats arranged around the table. "Please, make yourselves comfortable. I understand you have quite a discovery to share." Taiwan signaled to Junseo, who placed their primary data crystal into the holographic projector. The air above the table shimmered as images of the new Olympus colony appeared. The buried structures, the preserved living quarters, the ancient human technology. "As you can see, Admiral," Taiwan began formally, "we have discovered what appears to be a human settlement dating back approximately 500 Earth years. This predates humanity's documented achievement of interstellar travel by more than 3 centuries. He paused, expecting shock, denial, or at least scientific curiosity. Instead, Admiral Sujin simply nodded, her expression unchanged. "We've wondered when someone would find New Olympus," she said, studying the holographic evidence with practiced eyes. "It was one of our earliest attempts at interstellar colonization, before we fully understood the challenges involved. Most records were lost during the dark decades." The room fell silent. Taiwan's team exchanged glances of confusion. "Admiral," Taiwan said carefully, "are you saying you knew of this colony's existence?" "Of course." She gestured, and the holographic display changed to show a star map. Dozens of points of light began to glow across several sectors. New Olympus was just one of our first-wave settlements. There were 43 in total, spread across what you now call the Orion Spur. Kaiho leaned forward. "This contradicts everything in the official records. According to the Galactic Compact Archives, humans achieved their first interstellar flight just 80 years ago." "Yes," one of the human scientists said. "That's what the records show." The implication hung in the air like a physical presence. "You deliberately misrepresented your species' technological development," Taiwan said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But why? And how?" Admiral Sujin sighed and pressed another control. The hologram shifted to show scenes of devastation. Ruined cities, crashed starships, barren landscapes. Because of this, the collapse. Nearly 400 years ago, humanity's first interstellar civilization tore itself apart in civil war. We had expanded too quickly, established colonies faster than we could properly govern them. Ideological differences became armed conflicts. New weapons were deployed. Earth itself was bombarded. The images showed a planet in ruins, its surface scarred by impacts and radiation. When it ended, our civilization had been bombed back to a pre-industrial state. Billions dead. Most knowledge lost. The surviving colonies, cut off from Earth, either died out or regressed to simple agrarian societies. It took us nearly 3 centuries to rebuild, to rediscover the technologies our ancestors had mastered and then lost. Taiwan struggled to process the magnitude of what he was hearing. "And when you achieved spaceflight again, we found the Galactic Compact already established. Many species had risen to prominence during our absence, and we discovered something else, evidence of our first expansion, carefully hidden in old bunkers and preserved databases that had survived the collapse. But we were weak, rebuilding. We needed time. So you presented yourselves as newcomers to interstellar travel," Junseo concluded. "You hid your true history." Admiral Sujin nodded. "The Compact's laws are clear. A species is classified based on when it achieves certain technological milestones. As newcomers, we were granted territories, trading rights, protection under interspecies law. Had we revealed our true history, you would have been held accountable for abandoned colonies and territories claimed during your first expansion," Taiwan realized, potentially facing reparation demands for any conflicts from that era. "We needed time to rediscover our past and prepare for the consequences of revealing it. The Admiral's eyes hardened. Now that time has come, ready or not. One of the human scientists activated a communication panel. The Council representatives have arrived. Admiral, send them in. The doors slid open to reveal a collection of the most powerful diplomatic figures in the Galactic Compact. The Durrani High Speaker, representatives from the Maven Confederacy, the Trescian domains, and half a dozen other major powers. Admiral Su Jin stood. Distinguished representatives, thank you for coming on such short notice. Today, humanity wishes to correct the historical record. As the diplomats took their seats, Taiwan realized he was witnessing a pivotal moment in galactic history. The humans hadn't been caught off guard by the discovery of New Olympus. They had been preparing for this revelation for decades, perhaps longer. The Admiral began a carefully prepared presentation, revealing humanity's true timeline of interstellar development, the catastrophic war that had nearly extinguished their species, and their gradual recovery. With each new disclosure, the alien diplomats showed increasing signs of alarm. In light of these revelations, Admiral Su Jin concluded, Earth formally requests a reassessment of humanity's status within the Galactic Compact. As the chamber erupted in a dozen different languages, Taiwan caught the Admiral's eye. For just a moment, he glimpsed something behind her composed expression. Not guilt or apology, but quiet determination. Humanity had hidden its true nature for centuries, and now they were ready to reclaim their place among the stars. The galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with tense energy. 3 days had passed since humanity's revelation, and the massive chamber, designed to house representatives from over 200 spacefaring species, was filled beyond capacity. The central speaking platform remained empty as council members argued among themselves in dozens of languages. Taiwan watched from the observer section, where his discovery team had been granted special access. Beside him sat Jun Seo, who leaned close to whisper, I've never seen the council this chaotic. Nor have I, Taiwan admitted. The vast chamber had been divided into clear factions. The elder species, those who had been part of the Galactic Compact for millennia, clustered together in obvious distress. The younger species seemed split between concern and intrigue, and the neutral diplomatic corps struggled to maintain order. High Speaker Ranjun of the Council finally activated the central platform. His amplified voice cut through the noise. This emergency session will come to order. The chamber gradually quieted as attention turned to the Durrani diplomat. Though physically unimposing, barely a meter tall with delicate features, his species' 5,000 years of continuous civilization granted him enormous authority. We have verified the evidence presented by the human delegation, Ranjum announced. There is no longer any doubt. Human civilization achieved interstellar capabilities approximately 5 centuries ago, not 80 years as previously documented. A new wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Furthermore, he continued, analysis confirms that the human colony known as New Olympus employed technologies that predate similar developments by other compact species. Most notably, their approach to faster-than-light travel appears to have been developed independently of established principles. This statement caused the loudest reaction yet. The Maven representative, Habin, rose from his seat. Are we to believe that humans not only reached the stars centuries before they claimed, but that they discovered an entirely different path to FTL travel? His voice carried clear disbelief. That would suggest parallel development of the most complex technology known to spacefaring societies. The evidence is conclusive, Ranjun replied. The drive systems recovered from New Olympus operate on principles that differ fundamentally from any FTL technology currently used by compact species. Taiwan watched as the implications sank in across the chamber. FTL travel was the cornerstone of interstellar civilization. Every known species had developed their version based on the same physical principles. The idea that humans had found an entirely different approach was more than surprising. It was deeply unsettling. "We must reassess the human classification immediately," declared the representative from the Trescian domains, Ban Siak. "Their status as a juvenile species is clearly inappropriate." "And what of their territorial claims?" demanded another voice. "If they reached these sectors centuries ago, does that grant them prior rights to disputed systems?" The questions mounted as more representatives joined the debate. Questions of technology sharing, military capabilities, and historical accountability echoed through the chamber. Through it all, the human delegation remained notably silent, allowing the council to process the revelations at their own pace. From his observation point, Ta-1 noticed a private communication taking place between Admiral Su-jin and a Doran diplomat. The Dorans had been humanity's most consistent rivals since their first contact, competing for the same resource-rich systems along their shared border. Now the Doran representative was gesturing emphatically, while the Admiral listened with practiced calm. "This will not end well," Jun Seo murmured. "The Dorans are militaristic by nature. They will see this revelation as a threat." As if confirming his words, Ta-1's personal communication device buzzed with an update from Valen intelligence. Unusual fleet movements had been detected along the Doran-human border. The Doran Empire was mobilizing its forces. On Earth and its officially acknowledged colonies, the revelation had sparked a different kind of energy. In Seoul's Museum of Human Achievement, curator Yun He carefully removed the preservation field from an ancient artifact, a navigation computer from humanity's first era of stellar exploration. "Until last week, this was classified at the highest level," she explained to the gathered crowd. "Now we can finally share our true history with you." All around her, similar scenes played out as long-hidden archives were opened and secret museums revealed to the public. 5 centuries of suppressed history flooded into common knowledge. Citizens gathered around public displays, watching historical footage of the first colony ships, listening to recordings from the time before the collapse. In a university lecture hall, Professor Minho addressed an overflowing audience. "The deception was necessary," he explained, displaying images of Earth after the collapse, cratered landscapes and ruined cities. "When we finally rebuilt enough to reach space again, we discovered the galaxy had moved on without us. The compact was already established, with its rigid hierarchy of species based on their technological timeline. Had we claimed our true history then, we would have been held accountable for abandoned territories and lost colonies we couldn't even locate anymore." A student raised her hand, but wasn't lying wrong, and illegal under compact law. "Perhaps," the professor acknowledged, "but what choice did we have? Our civilization had been bombed back to a pre-industrial state. We needed time to recover our strength and knowledge before facing the consequences of our past." In orbit around the contested planet Nexus, Captain Ji Woo watched as 3 Doran battlecruisers took position opposite her small patrol fleet. The border had been tense for decades, but never like this. "They're scanning us, Captain," her tactical officer reported. "Active targeting systems online." Jae-woo kept her expression neutral for her crew's benefit, maintained defensive posture, no provocative actions. Her communication officer looked up from his station. "Captain, we're receiving new orders from Fleet Command. All ships are to withdraw 50 light minutes from the border and await further instructions." "Withdraw?" Ji-woo echoed in surprise. For years, the standing orders had been to hold position against any Doran encroachment. "Yes, Captain. Admiral Su-jin has authorized a strategic repositioning of all border forces." Jae-woo studied the tactical display. The Doran ships clearly expected confrontation. Their weapon systems were hot and fighters deployed. A withdrawal now would appear weak. But orders were orders. Send acknowledgement to Fleet Command. Then signal all ships to prepare for synchronized jump to the fallback coordinates. As the human vessels began their retreat, the Doran commanders must have been bewildered. This was not the response they had anticipated. What they couldn't know was that deep within human territory, shipyards hidden for centuries were now activating. Vessels built with technology derived from humanity's first golden age, preserved in secret for generations, were being brought online. Admiral Sujin wasn't retreating. She was consolidating forces for whatever came next. Back in the council chamber, a new figure approached the central platform. Elder Hyun-ki of the Silicate Consciousness rarely spoke at such gatherings, but when he did, all listened. His crystalline form reflected the chamber's lights as he addressed the assembly. Before we rush to judgment or action, his translated voice resonated. We should consider a simple question. If humans concealed their true history for centuries, if they developed unique approaches to our most fundamental technologies, what else might they be hiding? The question hung in the air as every eye turned toward the silent human delegation. The wind howled across the excavation site as night fell on New Olympus. Most of the Valen research team had departed days ago, recalled to provide testimony before the Galactic Council. Only Ta-1 and Jun-Seo remained, working alongside a small human scientific contingent led by Dr. Hangil. "The storm's getting worse," Jun-Seo observed, checking the atmospheric readings on his portable scanner. "We should return to the shelter." Dr. Hangil looked up from the ancient console he was examining. "Just a few more minutes. I'm detecting power fluctuations from the lower levels we haven't explored yet." For 2 weeks, they had methodically documented the colony, cataloging technologies and historical records that rewrote galactic understanding of human development. But sections of the underground complex remained sealed, resistant to their scanning equipment. "There," Dr. Hangil said suddenly. "That signal again. It's coming from beneath the central hub." The 3 researchers made their way through narrow corridors, following the mysterious energy signature. The deeper they went, the more the architecture changed. The upper levels had been clearly designed for human habitation, but these passages showed subtle differences. Doorways slightly taller, lighting positioned at unusual heights. "This section wasn't built by humans," Ta-1 said, running his 6-fingered hand along the wall. "The proportions are wrong." They reached a massive circular door, unlike anything they had seen elsewhere in the colony. No visible controls or access panel, just a smooth metallic surface etched with unfamiliar symbols. "I've never seen this writing system before," Jun-Seo said, taking detailed scans. "It doesn't match any known human language or any species in the compact database." Dr. Hangil approached the door slowly. He removed a small device from his pocket, a simple metal cylinder that he had carried throughout their exploration but never used. "What is that?" Ta-1 asked. "Something I was instructed to bring if we found this place." The human scientist pressed his thumb against one end of the cylinder. It hummed softly and began to glow. When he held it near the door, the symbols illuminated in response. With a deep, resonant sound, the massive portal began to slide open. "You knew this was here," Jun-Seo said, not as an accusation, but in wonder. "Not exactly," Dr. Hangil replied. "But there were legends, stories passed down through certain families about sealed vaults beneath the old colonies. Most dismissed them as myths. The chamber beyond was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness. As they stepped inside, lights activated automatically, revealing rows of crystalline storage units lining the walls. At the center stood a raised platform with what appeared to be a holographic projector. "This technology," Ta-1 whispered, "it's beyond anything we've seen anywhere in the galaxy." Dr. Hangil approached the central platform cautiously. He placed the cylinder into a perfectly sized recess, and the projector hummed to life. A figure appeared above it, humanoid but clearly not human, tall and slender with features that seemed both insect-like and avian. The hologram spoke in a language none of them recognized. Then, noticing their confusion, it paused briefly before switching to an archaic form of human speech. Translation protocols activated. "Welcome, descendants. If you have accessed this vault, then the time approaches once more." Dr. Hangil stepped forward. "Who are you?" "I am a memory, preserved to warn those who would come after. My kind called themselves the Guardians. Your ancestors would have known us as the Watchers." The hologram gestured, and the entire chamber transformed into a star map of the galaxy. Certain systems glowed with a red light. Long before your kind achieved civilization, we observed a pattern across many worlds. A predatory species, one we call the Harvesters, moved through the galaxy in cycles. They would locate worlds with developing intelligent life, then attack once that life reached a specific stage of development. The holographic display changed to show Earth, ancient Earth, with continents slightly differently shaped than in the modern era. The image zoomed in to show primitive human settlements. Your world was visited approximately 5,000 of your years ago. The Harvesters descended when your ancestors had just begun to build cities and develop early metallurgy. The hologram showed massive ships descending from the sky, cities burning, humans being collected and taken away. They did not come to conquer. They came to harvest. Intelligent life was their resource, to be collected, processed, and used. Jumseo stepped closer. Used for what? That we never discovered. But their pattern was clear. They would take a percentage of the population, leaving enough to rebuild. Then they would depart, not returning until the civilization had recovered and grown again. The cycle typically lasted between 4,000 and 6,000 years. Taiwan felt a chill despite the chamber's comfortable temperature, and Earth was harvested 5,000 years ago. Yes, the hologram confirmed. My people intervened on your world, something we had done rarely before. We saved a small group of humans and gave them technology far beyond their understanding. We established sanctuaries like this one across the galaxy, hidden places where humanity could survive should Earth fall completely when the Harvesters returned. Dr. Hangil's voice shook slightly. The Dark Decades, our civil war that collapsed our first spacefaring civilization, that wasn't just us destroying ourselves, was it? No. Your people found evidence of the coming harvest. Some believed, some denied. Factions formed. Wars erupted. The knowledge was lost in the destruction, but the warning remained buried in your myths and legends. The hologram changed again, showing mathematical calculations. Based on the harvesting patterns observed across 17 affected worlds, we projected the next visitation to your planet. According to our calculations, the cycle completes within one standard decade from when this vault is accessed. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Earth, the entire human race, faced a threat it had forgotten, one that had shaped its entire history without its knowledge. There is more, the hologram continued. The drive systems we gave your ancestors, what you now call faster-than-light travel, were designed specifically to evade harvester detection. The principles differ fundamentally from those developed by other species because the common method leaves energy signatures that the harvesters can track across vast distances. Taiwan thought of the political chaos unfolding across the galaxy, the suspicion directed at humans for their unique FTL technology. The humans didn't develop their drive technology independently. You gave it to them. Yes, as protection, as hope. The hologram's light dimmed slightly. This vault contains all we knew of the Harvesters, their technologies, their patterns, their vulnerabilities. It was meant to be found when needed most. Dr. Hangil approached one of the crystal storage units. Its surface was cool to the touch and somehow felt alive. Why didn't your people stop the Harvesters themselves? We tried. The hologram showed massive space battles, incredible weapons, entire solar systems consumed in energy. The conflict lasted generations. In the end, we were too few, they too many. Our final act was to scatter these vaults among the worlds we had tried to protect, hoping the knowledge would serve when the time came again. Jumseo studied the data scrolling across a nearby terminal. These records indicate the Harvesters don't just target humans. Dozens of species have been harvested throughout galactic history. Correct. Many of the species now part of your galactic compact have been harvested in past cycles, though most have lost the memory of it. The knowledge would unite them, if they would believe. Taiwan thought of the divided council, the species suspicious of one another, the military buildup already beginning along contested borders. They need to know. All of them. Dr. Hangill nodded, his expression grave. This changes everything. The revelation about our true history was just the beginning. This, he gestured to the hologram and the surrounding vault. This is why we hid. Somewhere in our collective memory, we remembered the threat, even if we forgot its name. We must take this to the council immediately, Jun Seo said. No, Dr. Hangill's voice was firm. Not the council. Not yet. First Admiral Su Jin needs to see this. There are other vaults, other colonies we've been excavating in secret. This needs to be coordinated. The hologram spoke again. Time grows short. The calculations are clear. The harvesters approach once more. As if in response, their communication devices all signaled simultaneously, a priority alert from their respective commands. Taiwan checked the message and felt his blood run cold. Unknown ships have been detected at the edge of charted space, he read aloud. Moving in formation toward the central systems, they match no known design in compact records. They looked at each other, then at the ancient warning hovering before them. The cycle was complete. The harvesters had returned. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so silent. 8 days had passed since the discovery in the vault beneath New Olympus. 8 days of frantic verification, emergency meetings, and growing dread as the unknown fleet continued its inexorable approach through the outer systems. Every seat was filled. Species that had been enemies for generations sat side by side, united by a common fear. At the center of the chamber stood Admiral Su Jin, her black and silver uniform freshly pressed despite her evident exhaustion. Behind her, a team of human and Valen scientists had assembled a complex array of projectors. Commander Taiwan stood among them, still processing everything he had witnessed in that ancient vault. Distinguished representatives, Admiral Su Jin began, her voice calm but carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. Thank you for convening on such short notice. What I am about to share will change our understanding of galactic history forever. She activated the first projection, the star map from the vault showing the pattern of harvester visitations. Humanity's deception regarding our technological timeline was not motivated by ambition or political advantage. It was born of fear, a fear so deeply ingrained in our collective memory that it survived even when its source was forgotten. The Admiral walked slowly around the projection, letting everyone see the glowing red markers scattered across the galaxy. 5,000 years ago, Earth was attacked by a species we now know as the Harvesters. They descended upon our primitive civilization, taking millions of our ancestors. Those who survived called them gods, demons, or invaders from the heavens. The event shaped our earliest myths and religions. She triggered the next projection, ancient human artwork depicting strange vessels in the sky, beings taking humans away. But we were not alone in this experience. The Harvesters have visited countless worlds, including, we believe, the homeworlds of many species represented in this chamber. A murmur ran through the assembly. Elder Hyun-ki of the Silicate Consciousness rose from his seat. This is a serious claim, Admiral. What evidence can you provide? This. She activated another projection showing archaeological data from dozens of worlds. Across the galaxy, we find the same pattern, civilizations that reach a certain level of development, then suddenly collapse or show massive population decline. After a few thousand years, they'd rebuild, only to collapse again. The Durrani High Speaker leaned forward. These could be natural disasters, wars, resource depletion. Too consistent, Su Jin interrupted. Too regular. The cycle repeats approximately every 5,000 years. And now we know why. The next projection showed records from the vault, detailed scans of harvester vessels and their capabilities. This information comes from an ancient species called the Guardians. They fought the harvesters and lost, but not before creating refuges for species like ours. They gave a small group of humans advanced technology and helped establish colonies like New Olympus across the galaxy, safeguards against extinction. The scientific advisor from the Maven Confederacy stood. If this information is thousands of years old, why bring it forward now? Admiral Su Jin's expression grew grave. Because the cycle is complete. The harvesters have returned. She displayed the most recent scan data of the unknown fleet moving through the outer systems. Massive ships unlike anything in compact records. We've compared these vessels to the Guardian records. They match harvester configurations with 97% certainty. Panic threatened to overtake the chamber. Representatives shouted questions or demands. Some called for immediate military action, others for evacuation of their homeworlds. High Speaker Ranjun called for order, his amplified voice cutting through the chaos. When the chamber quieted, he turned to Admiral Su Jin. If what you say is true, Admiral, then we face an enemy that has defeated civilizations far more advanced than our own. What possible defense can we mount? For the first time, Su Jin smiled. That brings me to humanity's final revelation. She nodded to her staff, who activated a secure communication channel. On screens throughout the chamber appeared images of massive shipyards hidden deep within asteroid fields and gas giant moons. Vessels of unfamiliar design were being assembled or launched. Hundreds of them. When we rediscovered our history, when we found the Guardian vaults across our old colonies, we began to prepare. For 3 generations, we've been building a fleet based on Guardian designs specifically created to combat the harvesters. The representatives stared in shock at the scale of the hidden preparations. The unique FTL technology that puzzled your scientists. Designed to evade harvester detection. Our seemingly primitive weapons systems. Deliberately understated while we developed countermeasures based on Guardian specifications. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of key representatives. Humanity doesn't seek dominance. We seek survival for all sentient life. The harvesters will target every developed world in the galaxy. No single species can stand against them alone. But together, with the technology we've recovered and the preparations we've made, we have a chance. Taiwan stepped forward at Su Jin's gesture. He had spent days analyzing the Guardian records and preparing this moment. The harvester strategy relies on division, he explained. They attack isolated worlds unprepared for their coming. But the Galactic Compact gives us an unprecedented advantage. Communication and coordination across thousands of systems. Admiral Su Jin nodded. We need your help. Human ships can't defend every world. We need your shipyards, your resources, your warriors. We need to adapt Guardian technology to your vessels, create a united defense network across all compact territories. The chamber fell silent as the representatives processed her words. Then, slowly, High Speaker Ranjun rose from his seat. I am 10,000 years old by your counting, the ancient Durrani said. Throughout my life, I have seen civilizations rise and fall, patterns I never fully understood. Now I see clearly. He bowed deeply to the human delegation. The Durrani Confederation pledges its full support to this united defense. One by one, other representatives stood. The Maven Admiral pledged his battle fleets. The Trescian domains offered their shipyards. Even the Doran Empire, humanity's longtime rival, committed their formidable forces to the cause. As species after species joined what would later be called the Guardian Pact, Taiwan watched Admiral Su Jin's expression. Behind her professional calm, he saw profound relief. Humanity had carried this burden alone for generations, preparing in secret for a threat they could not defeat by themselves. In the days that followed, human engineers and scientists spread throughout the galaxy, sharing Guardian technology with former rivals and allies alike. Shipyards that had built vessels for territorial disputes now constructed unified defense platforms. Warning systems were established in every system, coordinated through a network designed to track harvester movements. 3 weeks after the council session, Admiral Su Jin stood on the bridge of the flagship New Olympus named for the colony whose discovery had changed everything. The massive vessel represented the pinnacle of Guardian-inspired technology, commanding a fleet of ships from 24 different species. First contact with the Harvester Vanguard in 30 minutes, Admiral, her tactical officer, reported. Su Jin nodded, studying the deployment of the combined fleet. For the first time in recorded history, ships from every major galactic power flew in formation, their differences set aside in the face of extinction. Send the final communication to all Allied vessels, she ordered. Remind them of the battle plan. The Harvesters expect isolated, unprepared worlds. Instead, they'll find the united forces of the entire galaxy. As the massive Harvester ships appeared at the edge of the system, Admiral Su Jin allowed herself a moment of reflection. The discovery of that forgotten human colony hadn't just revealed humanity's true history. It had united the galaxy as nothing else could have done. Whatever the outcome of the coming battle, the age of division was over. Species that had viewed each other with suspicion or contempt now fought side by side against a common enemy. New Olympus, built as a refuge against extinction, had instead become the foundation for something greater, a truly united galaxy with humanity at its heart. The first Harvester ship moved into range. Admiral Su Jin straightened her uniform and gave the order to engage. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin.